Hey, it's Game Hydro. Got another video for you about War Drone 3D shooting games, and we're going to go over what the best things to get out of the supply drop are, the best buffs and the best supports, to be specific, because weapons-wise, it's a pretty settled matter in this game. You don't exactly deviate from your three weapons here: the 25mm gun, the Hydra 70, and the Hellfire. I mean, not that you want to after enough upgrades. These things are completely indestructible. But, the buff cards and the support cards allow you to supremely power them up. Now, unfortunately, it would be completely impossible to get every single card out of the supply drop without literally spending thousands of dollars. Because cards are expensive. The gold costs 1,800 gold is $4.99. 3,800 gold is $9.99, etc. And this is just for the first purchase. It's half that for every purchase after that. But nevertheless, we're going to rank the best supply drop items, and we're going to do our best to separate them into a tier list so that you all can have a little bit of advice to go off of as far as what the highest tier weapons to put in your arsenal are. Now, grab a pen and paper for this, please. I don't have the software or the hardware to physically make a tier list, but, grab a piece of pen and paper and you will be good to go. All right. So, hi. So a lot of this is going to follow the actual rarity of the item itself. Obviously, the rarer the item, the slimmer your chances of getting said item. Mythics and, well, legendaries less so, but mythics there's especially low chance of getting it one of. But, they're all right. All right. Chance of 25mm direct hit on a friendly will add 1 hit point to the friendly. Okay. I don't know about how I feel about that one, because I guess if it's a chance of a rival of an enemy's direct 25mm direct hit, adding a hit point's not all that much. That seems underwhelming for a mythic. I'm going B tier. Chance a direct Hydra hit will stall an enemy vehicle. I like this one. I'm going A tier here because the better that you can get a vehicle to stop moving, the easier the stage will be, bar none. Especially a high damage vehicle that does high damage or has a lot of armor. Nuke it from orbit. Chance that a Hellfire will carry a tactical nuke, dealing massive extra damage. I like that one a lot. That's S tier. Maybe S minus, I guess. Increases the starting health of friendly units. That one is pretty excellent. We're going to go A tier on that one. Because, once you start getting attacked, you start getting attacked. And you ideally want to ward them off as much as possible. Alright. Alright, we got the Apache. Powerful air support with rocket attacks for long-range defense. So this is going to be an excellent support troop for you. I'm going S tier on that one. Because if that thing, it's going to have high health. Rocket attack against, whether it's a vehicle or whether it's, Jesus, I can't talk. Whether it's infantry troops, that's going to be excellent. Tactical nuke. So that's your super weapon there. Causes massive damage. Residual radiation damages troops passing through it. Okay, obviously anything like that is going to be like S plus tier. That's the best one by far out of all those, and especially the best of the super weapons. Now we're going to go legendary. Consecutive direct hits with the 25mm gun increases its damage. That is an S tier one for me because you're going to be using the 25mm gun heavily when attacking vehicles. because paradoxically, it's much better against vehicles typically than the Hydra is, although the Hydra can help it out. Third time lucky. Every third Hydra fired does extra damage. I'm going I'm going B tier on this one, maybe A tier, because you don't really fire that many consecutive Hydras for the most part, because aiming them is so different from aiming the 25 millimeter that it kind of it wouldn't necessarily go well with it. Firefall. Chance that a Hellfire shockwave will leave fire, damaging ground units that pass through it. That is definitely A tier. We like residual damage in this game, especially when there's a buttload of annoying infantry troops. Armor plate reduces enemy damage to friendly vehicles. Simple, clean, makes it easier to win. A tier. Kevlar. Reduces enemy damage to friendly troops. I'm going to put this one A tier and put armor plate up to S- tier, because the friendly troops don't stick around super long unless unless they come with the vehicle right from the jump. But it does help, although they typically tend to be weaker than the vehicle in the first place. Abrams. Battle tank engages enemy units at range. That's an excellent one. It's going to have high defense and high attack power. The fact that it's at range is pretty legit, though, too. The only weakness there is it isn't necessarily something that is aimed from the friendly, like a lot of the other support troops are. A tier. Super weapon. Hypersonic missile. High-speed devastating attack on the target area. So the main advantage will be easy to aim, but it won't be necessarily as high range or as high attack as some of the others. A tier. Thermite bomb. Slow moving wall of flames melts anything in its path. Yeah, aim this one right and you're going to be at a massive advantage. That's S tier for me. Now we are doing the epics. Last Resort increases 25 millimeter gun damage when the friendly has low health. That is certainly A tier. That's a good one to have, because there's a lot of times when you'll be passing the level by the skin of your teeth. Shrapnel. All troops take extra splash damage from 25 millimeter shots. So splash damage from 25 millimeter shots, that's pretty good, especially when it's a crowded situation. That's S tier. Increases Hydra rocket damage when friendly has low health. That's B+ tier. Splash radius of the Hydra rocket. This one's extraordinarily useful, even though it's only like a 5% increase or so at level 1. Now, at level 2, obviously when you get duplicate cards, they level up, so it increases that percentage radius. But even at 5%, this one still can make the difference between, splash damaging a whole bunch of infantry and vehicles or not doing that. So that's A tier. Chance a Hellfire shockwave will generate an EMP, temporarily disabling all vehicles in it. That is, to me, an S tier, because if you can generate one of these EMPs, oftentimes there's chapters, like for example, for early folks in the game, Chapter 6, where at the very end of the level, just a whole mess of vehicles appears all in one place. That makes a massive difference. S-. A+. Large hardpoint increases ammo capacity of Hellfires. Considering the massively expensiveness of upgrades, I'm going A+. Yeah, Hellfires are far more expensive to upgrade than either the 25mm or the Hydra, like by a long shot. Mark II Hellfires increase damages of the Hellfire missiles. That's pretty good. Yeah, Hellfires already do a lot of damage, so the percentage increase you get here will also overflow to the upgrades that you purchase on the weapons area. So we're going A tier for that, A+. Mark II hardpoint, rate of fire of the Hellfire missiles. That one's kind of a meh for me. B+ B tier. Don't really care about the firing rate. Medic restores friendly troop health. That's pretty damn useful. A+. Mechanic restores friendly vehicle health. Yeah, A+, S-. Because, there's a lot of chapters where you're going to take massive damage at the beginning, and then you're going to wish you had more health after you clear out everybody that was attacking. This certainly helps. Moab causes massive damage to anything in its impact zone. So this is going to have a huge impact zone too. And for, it's a pretty common drop for something that good. A+. Rocket pod. Multiple rockets launched at a wide target area. I'm going to go A- on this one. Cruise missile. Delivers devastating damage to a precise target area. Okay, it's going to be insane damage, but the splash is going to be low. I'm going B+. Magnetic mine deploys multiple mines which detonate when metal units pass by. That's going to do crazy amounts of damage, but be a little difficult to aim. But that'll be extra strong against vehicles. You can use your other weapons to deal with infantries. I'm going to go A tier on that one. Alright, rares. Depleted uranium. Does extra damage to vehicles, 1 in 10. That's, considering that these are most useful against vehicles, I'm going A- tier because I wish it was more frequent, like 1 in 5. If it was 1 in 5, that would certainly be S tier. Time to die. Chance an injured enemy troop will take additional damage over time. It's going to be too small of a chance to really make a huge difference. And they get to your friendly so fast that it's not that useful. B-. Strikeout. Chance a 25mm that misses will be returned to your ammo. Considering how often you run out of 25mm guns when you're firing heavily, I kind of like this one unless you're like a Deadeye. So I'm going A- tier. Wide impact reduces 25mm splash damage fall off so that max damage applies to a larger area. This is good when it's paired with a splash damage radius increaser, but I honestly wasn't even aware that the 25mm had splash damage because it does so little. So I'm going to go B-. Hydras are laser guided and can be steered to their target. Considering the laser guided part is what pisses me off the most about Hydras, or about Hellfires, I don't really care to have that on my Hydras. But it could be useful when you're aiming at vehicles, but not when you're aiming at fast vehicles. I'm going C+. Heat Seeker. Chance a Hydra rocket will be heat seeking and lock onto its target. Now that would be useful for the Hydra. A. Strikeout. Chances a Hydra rocket that misses will be returned to your ammo. S tier. Because how many of them miss the direct shot? Plus you could still do splash damage and end up having it returned. That's pretty nice. Reduces splash damage fall off so max damage applies to a larger area. Now that's A tier for that one. Laser off. Removes Hellfire missile guidance and they land where they are aimed when launched. That's a surprising one to see here to even be a skill in this game, but considering laser guidance is what irritates me the most about Hellfires, I'm going A tier for that one. However, the laser guidance may be more to your liking. So, honestly, that one's kind of subjective. The chance that Hellfire will drop mines that do damage upon detonation. Okay, adding a weapon on top of a weapon. That's pretty good. I'll go B tier for that one just because you don't know where the mines are going to end up. And mines are notoriously difficult to aim, but they do a ton of damage. Enhanced payload increases splash radius of the Hellfire missile. B+ tier, because The splash damage is the best thing about it anyways. Enhanced fall off. Reduces hellfire damage fall off. Duh. A tier. Mine the Gap. Chance that an enemy vehicle's final destination will be mined. That's a super intelligent one. I'm going S tier. Friendly Max. Increases max HP that friendlies can be buffed to. But then you need to pair with other buffs. It on its own doesn't really do much. B minus. Sorry about that. Had to pause for a second. Large Hydra Pod. Ammo capacity of Hydra 70s increases. Hydra upgrades are pretty cheap, and it's a little more rare that you use up all your Hydra stores. So I'm going B on that. Mark II increases damage. Yeah, increased damage on these is always really nice because the damage just never feels like enough. I'm going A plus. Increases rate of fire. The firing rate does annoy me most of the time, but it's not too big a crisis for me. I'm going B tier. B plus. AA battery defends the friendly against airborne attackers. So that one I'm going C tier because I would rather it defend against all attackers, and ground attackers are going to be the majority of them. Raptor. Circles the battlefield, firing missiles at enemies. Now, it's more random than some of the ones that target enemies close to the friendlies, but I still like it. I'm going B plus. Jammer protects the friendly from vehicle-launched missiles. I'm going B plus. Timing this one with the missile, with the missile-launching enemies, is going to be pretty good stuff. Harrier hovers around the battlefield, launching multiple rocket attacks at the enemy. I'm going to go B plus to A minus on this one. Those rocket attacks can be pretty nice, especially against some of the vehicle clusters. Airstrike calls in a large airstrike on the target area. Good splash damage, of course. Damage is going to be a little low. I'm going B plus. Cluster Bomb deploys bomblets over a wide area, doing heavy damage to infantry and unarmored vehicles. That's B plus. It can't go any higher because it's too specific of a use. But for stages where infantry gets super annoying and Humvees get super annoying, that can be really excellent. Troops in the gas cloud cannot attack their target. No, for something taking up a super weapon slot, I'd rather it be something that kills them. So I'm going B minus C plus. Maverick, devastating anti-tank missile that does times 8 damage to all tanks. Times 8 damage to tanks, dear God. If you're having a big problem with tanks, that's really useful, but it's too specific of a use for an A tier, so I'm going B tier. JAGM, heat-seeking air-to-ground missile that does 5 times the damage to all ground vehicles. Considering ground vehicles are most of what you're going to be trying to kill, I'm going A plus on that one. Alright, now for the impossible task of ranking every common item. Alright, now the commons. Trip hazard. Chance that splash damage will cause troops to fall over. I don't have Play Amazing Socks, bud. No, they don't sell socks. Okay? Sorry, I'm at a soft play park with the kids while I'm shooting this video. Obviously, judging by the sound you probably heard in the background. Alright. Trip hazard. That one is kind of weak sauce to me. I'm going C plus. Gun does additional damage to waterborne vehicles. Once waterbornes do start showing up, that's pretty useful, but it's too specific. B tier. 25mm does additional damage to airborne vehicles. You don't really see airbornes too often, so that one doesn't hold water to me. I'm going B minus. Additional damage to tracked vehicles. Now, tracked vehicles do pop up fairly often. I'm going A minus. Additional damage to wheeled vehicles. Same thing here, except wheeled vehicles already tend to be a little weaker and easier to kill. So I'm going B plus. Tracer, 1 in 25 are tracer rounds that do extra damage. I'm going with B tier because, yes, that's useful, but I would prefer it to be 1 in 5 or something like that. And the damage is only like 5% extra. Bouncing Bomb. Chance at a direct hit will ricochet and damage a second target. I like that one. That's for the Hydra. And imagine a Hydra ricocheting and hitting twice. That's pretty legit. B plus. Water Buster. Hydra rockets do additional damage to Waterborne. B. B. Tracked vehicles are one of the bigger pain in the asses as we went over, so I'm going A minus. B plus. Actually, I'm going A minus here too because you want Hydras to do splash damage to multiple vehicles a lot of times, especially if you're using them to kind of help out your 25 millimeters. Hydra travels in a corkscrew, taking 50% longer but doing extra damage. That's okay, I guess. I'm going C tier on that one. The whole point of it to me is that it drops a little bit more quickly than the Hellfire. But 50% more damage is 50% more damage. I'm going B tier, B plus. Chance at a Hellfire will leave fallout, damaging troops passing through it. That's unusually strong for a common card. I'm going A plus. Especially because you can upgrade that one a lot if you're, spending a lot of gold on the supply drops. Wheel Breaker, additional damage to wheeled vehicles from the Hellfire. Hellfires, one of their best uses is hitting big clusters of wheeled vehicles. I'm going A tier for this one. Soft Landing, oh brother, deploys a parachute, slowing descent by 50%. But doing extra damage. The Hellfire is already slow as hell. I don't want to slow it by 50% even for extra damage. I'm going C plus tier. This is really only useful after you've memorized every facet of a stage. Airbreaker. Hellfires do additional damage to airbornes. That is D tier to me because, no, that's C plus. Because you can laser guide the Hellfire. But I don't know that I've ever fired a Hellfire at an airborne vehicle. I don't know that any drone operator in real life has ever done that. So, kind of useless to me. Water Breaker, additional damage to waterborne vehicles. That one's not bad to me because waterbornes are slow, and with a big explosion, you have a chance of hitting 2 or more Hellfires at a time. Waterbornes at a time. I'm going B tier. Track Breaker. All right, now we're cooking with fire because I deploy Hellfires a ton against tracked vehicles and wheeled vehicles, so both of those I'm going A plus tier. Large linkless magazine increases ammo capacity. Now it starts off increasing it only by +5, but you know what? Sometimes that capacity can make a big difference and it's very easily levelable. I'm going at B plus. Increases damage of the 25 millimeter. Increasing overall damage of the 25 millimeter, especially when your alternatives are those tracer round ones. That's ridiculously valuable. I'm going A plus tier. Mark II linkless mag increases the rate of fire of the 25 millimeter gun. Yes. Rate of fire is tantamount to increasing damage. Except it also uses ammo faster, so I'm going B plus. Chance an enemy small arms attack will jam and do no damage. Yeah, I like that one. That can especially help when your friendly is getting targeted by like 1,000 infantry troops. I'm going B+. Make a splash increases the splash damage radius of environmental barrels and vehicles. Most of the barrels are really poorly aimed in this game anyways. And shooting them doesn't do a ton of damage. But if you increase this, increasing the splash damage, whatever. C, that's useless. Bigger boom. Okay, hold on. Oh, damage radius. Sorry, I misread that. I'm going B- tier because the radius is my biggest complaint. This one is C tier. Unless it's paired with the other one. Spy satellite tags all enemies on the battlefield. I'm going C tier. That's useless. It doesn't do any damage. All you just look around the stage and use the zoom function. Sniper defends the friendly with high caliber rifles that can hit targets at long range. This one is absolutely A tier for me because it aims at enemies that are the closest to the friendly, which can really get you out of some bad situations. Same thing with special forces. That can get you out of some bad situations because they start it with the enemies that are closest to the friendly. So I'm going A tier on that one. Little Bird fast air support with a minigun attack. I'm going B+ because it's pretty damn good for damaging vehicles really fast, especially on stages with fuel trucks and Humvees. It's good. It can take them out right away. A-10 Thunderbolt strafes the nearest enemies to the friendly. I like the targeting of the enemies closest to the friendly. I'm going B+ or A- tier on that one because I still like the special forces and the sniper better because they last longer. Exocet, devastating anti-ship missile that does 5 times damage to all water units. That's B tier because it's too specific of a use, but that one is useful. Sidewinder, 5 times damage to all air units, and it's a heat seeker. Too specific of a use, but the fact that it's a heat seeker really helps. B+. EMP creates an electromagnetic pulse on detonation, which disables all vehicles in its radius. Now it disables them temporarily, so I would say that is a B+. If it was a permanent disabling of vehicles, that would be like S tier. Napalm burns all units that pass through it once per second, doing double damage to infantry. And as a bonus, it sticks to kids. No, I'm kidding. Alright. Dark joke there. Props to those of you that got the reference, though. Considering how big of a pain in the butt infantry can be, I'm going a B+. Because you can also, if you got a surplus of Hellfires, you can send them out to deal with infantry real quick. But that one definitely helps take them out of sight, out of mind. Minefield, multiple mines which detonate when enemy units pass over them. Does a buttload of damage, but it's notoriously difficult to aim. So I'm going B tier. Artillery, sustained artillery bombardment on the target area. That one is too hard against because you got so many vehicles that move quickly that you're always targeting. I'm going B- on that one. Alright, so that is our ranking of all the supply drops, all the buffs, and all the supports. Hope you enjoyed that. Try to equip as many S tiers as possible or A+ tiers as possible, and you will be golden. But above all, it also, especially because you can unlock so many slots, more slots than you have A tier available, or S tiers rather. It just depends on what you like the most. But anyways, this is Game Hydro. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let us know any other topics you might want to see about the game. Or let us know any other games besides War Drone 3D shooting games that you may want to see us talk about.